We need to talk about this. Baldur's Gate 3 is the best game of all time. No, I don't want to hear what your opinion is on the matter. It's true, it's fact, I said it, and now you have to agree with me. Baldur's Gate, in case you didn't know, is based off the popular tabletop RPG game Dungeons & Dragons, but if you didn't know that, I don't know what you've been doing. You know Dungeons & Dragons, the thing that was considered a gateway drug to a demonic cult back in the 80s, but it turns out it was just a bunch of kids in their mother's basements rolling to see if they poop their pants? It's based off of that. Converting D&D from a tabletop game to a video game is an incredibly hard thing to do, and Baldur's Gate does a really good job of it. And like Larian, the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 couldn't even base it off the first two Baldur's Gate games because those were basically not Dungeons & Dragons. The combat wasn't even turn-based. So to make things work in a video game format, Larian had to change and adjust a lot of D&D rules. And I think some of them made D&D better. Like, so many of the changes aren't actually based in making the game more balanced or more fun even. They're actually just based in making the game simpler. And I think we could all serve to make D&D just a little bit simpler, okay? And that's the reason that Baldur's Gate 3 has led to a lot more people trying out D&D for the first time. So I want to walk through some of my favorite changes that Larian made to D&D rules that I think would work great in regular Dungeons & Dragons. For weapon fighters, combat can really frequently be broken down into this. I move towards my enemy. I hit my enemy. I wait for my turn. I hit my enemy. And that's just, you know, it's fine. That's what you signed up for, but we can make it better. Weapon actions in Baldur's Gate 3 are like little extra treats for people who use martial weapons, and they're really freaking cool. They're these little extra actions that you can use once per short rest that are based off the type of weapon you're using. For example, if you're using a trident, who would use a trident normally? You can disarm your enemy. That's so cool. Oh, what's that? You've got a greatsword? You can make your enemy bleed for like 1,000,000 turns. Why not? Weapon actions are great because they add a little bit extra decision making, because sometimes they might do bonus damage or they might do less damage but have a really useful effect. It forces the weapon fighters to put a little more thought into every turn, and it gives them another expendable resource to consider when to use. Plus, it adds a lot of flavor to the weapons you choose to use. Like if you have a +1 greatsword and +1 battle axe, there's an actual reason to decide between one or the other. And they're not even like that powerful. They're just, you know, they're fun. So give your fighters and barbarians a little break, okay? Give them a little treat. Resting in D&D is annoying. So basically you have your hit dice, and you have a number of hit dice equal to your level. Every class has a different kind of hit dice, like wizards have a 1d6 and fighters have a 1d10, and then at a short rest you can choose to use some of your hit dice to recover hit points, and at a long rest you get half your maximum hit dice back, so you have to keep track of that, and then you have to decide when you're going to roll your hit dice, and then in Baldur's Gate 3 you get 2 short rests, and on a short rest you get half your hit points back. Now I'm not about to advocate for limiting your players to 2 short rests. That's just a rule Larian made up so that you long rest more to progress the story. That's all that is there for. But I do love the fact that short rests just give you half your hit points back, and then you just go into the rest of the game. It's like, oh, hit dice, who cares? Who gives a crap? And I know this might sound weird, like, oh, but if you get half your hit points back every time you short rest, won't players just short rest all the time? And short rests should still take an hour, and in my personal experience, players almost never take more than 2 short rests, even if they have plenty of hit dice. Like, the passage of time is a good enough reason for players to want to long rest and not do short rests all the time. I mean, yeah, you might have like a warlock who's like, half my hit points and all my spell slots back. Sign me up. But that's rare. So I just think simplifying things and having one fewer thing to track is overall good, and just don't make resting such a hassle. It's resting. Why are we doing so much math? Potions. Potions in D&D almost always require an action to consume. Meaning, unless you were smart enough to drink a potion before combat started, you're probably wasting your turn to get whatever effect from that potion you need or to heal yourself. But in Baldur's Gate 3, drinking a potion is a bonus action. The obvious implication here is that you can attack and then heal on the same turn, but there's so many more potions out there than just health potions. You've got like the Elixir of Hill Giant Strength, which makes your strength so much higher. Bonus action, whack your enemies. Ooh, you got a little vial of poison there, coat your weapon, shoot your enemy in the face, and they're also poisoned. If you shot them in the face, they're probably dead. Maybe not the best example. What I'm saying is that by making potion consumption a bonus action, you're allowing combat to keep moving forward and reducing downtime. No one wants to waste their turn in a game where turns can be hard to come by if you're playing with more than 3 people. Yes, this does mean that players are stronger on each of their turns, but guess what? That means you get to make harder enemies if you're a DM. So go ahead, kill your players, you know? What are we doing here? In Minecraft. YouTube. Baldur's Gate 3 also has the concept of throwing potions, which will give the effect to a small radius of people. And I'm not personally a huge fan of that. Like, I think it works in the game, but I don't see how throwing a health potion and like, what do you like, absorb it through osmosis to heal? I think that's weird, but I do think it's okay if you want to use your action to feed a potion to someone and a bonus action to use it yourself. This is already a common house rule. It was a common house rule before Baldur's Gate 3, but you know, just, there you go, take that. Prone. I think it's dumb that ranged attacks have disadvantage on prone enemies and melee attacks have advantage. I get it, I understand it, I don't like it. It's confusing to people. In Baldur's Gate, you have advantage if you're in melee range of a prone enemy, and that's it. That's the only thing. That makes sense. I'm taking that. That's my rule now, and I'm taking it forever. Spellcasting. I hate material components for spellcasting. It's so stupid. It doesn't mean anything. Baldur's Gate 3 has no material components, and it has no spellcasting focuses. In case you're new to D&D, material components are required for some spells. They can be things like a lock of hair to cast a spell, but if you have a spellcasting focus, you don't need a material component to cast that spell, as long as there's no price associated. Do you see how this is a little confusing? Do you see how this is a little bit much? Here's the thing about material components. No one ever uses them. Oh, you want to cast Ice Knife? Oh, sure, let me just take out my drop of water. Oh, wait, hold on, I guess you could be like carrying water around and... But still, it's stupid. Every spellcaster is going to have a spellcasting focus. The material components are just there for flavor, I guess. All spells that have material components should just require that material component and let spellcasters use whatever weapon they want that has cool effects, okay? That's what I think. This is maybe a controversial one. Also, while we're talking about spells, I think it's cool that players can cast multiple leveled spells in the same turn. Like, you can cast Bless on one turn, and as a bonus action, cast a healing word, and that's okay. That's fine. I think it's okay to let players use the full power of their turn. I see no issue with that personally. And again, if you think that makes your players overpowered, make harder encounters. There you go. Class changes. All right, I'm just gonna rapid fire some class changes right now because there are a few and I like most of them. Monks get key at first level instead of second level. Until monks get key, they're really boring, and I understand that at first level you're supposed to be weak, but you're not supposed to not have fun in Dungeons & Dragons, so just give them key at first level and let them use their magical abilities. Okay, cool, we agree on that. Bonded thrown weapons returning to your hand automatically. In regular Dungeons & Dragons, if you're an Eldritch Knight and you bound a weapon to yourself and you throw it, then you have to use your bonus action to bring it back. I think it should just come back, it's bound to you. That's my opinion. This is such a minor change. Frenzied Raging for a Barbarian, applying a cumulative -1 to attack rolls. This is so much better than how it works in D&D. In case you didn't know, a Frenzied Strike is an extra attack you can make on your turn as a bonus action. If you use it, you gain a point of exhaustion. A point of exhaustion is extremely punishing. You will have disadvantage on all ability checks with just 1 point of exhaustion, and it stacks up and gets worse. I understand why Frenzied Strike is punishing. It's supposed to be using all of your energy to get one last attack out. But I think it should be something more like a cumulative -2 to your attack rolls until the end of your next turn. So it's punishing, but still something that barbarians can use. Paladins selecting their oath at first level. I'm mostly mad about this from a role-playing perspective. Paladins are literally oath-bound, and they don't pick their oath until 3rd level. That doesn't make any sense, right? We all agree that's weird, that's doesn't make, it's stupid. Like seriously, in Baldur's Gate 3, you don't even get your oath spells, like the benefit of choosing your oath, until 3rd level anyway, so it changes almost nothing. This is just a role-playing thing. Preserve Life, that cleric spell that regenerates the health of all their allies in a certain range, it's really good. In regular D&D, you get 5 times your cleric level, and you divide that amongst your allies. In Baldur's Gate, every ally gets 3 times your cleric's level. You know what that means? Less math. Do that, add it to your games. Pact of the Blade Warlocks gain to use their charisma modifier for their attack rolls. It makes sense. Why are we not doing that already? Actually, in Xanathar's Guide, Hexblade Warlocks get that. Well, guess what? Pact of the Blade Warlocks should have good blades too. There's so many more class changes I like, but we should move on. Experience points. You get XP from not fighting things. You get XP from not fighting things. They fixed XP. In D&D, there's 2 main ways of tracking level ups. There's the experience system and the milestone system. The experience system just means you need to hit a certain number of experience points that you get from killing monsters before you level up. The milestone system just means you need to do enough cool things until you level up. The XP system is kind of dumb. But Larian completely fixed the XP system. There are so many ways to play Baldur's Gate, it's ridiculous. So if you only got XP for killing monsters, it would feel dumb. But Larian was smart, so if you talk your way out of a fight, you'll get the XP for all the monsters you would have killed. Also, if you find little secret passages, you'll get XP for that. If you progress the story, you get XP for that. It just makes total sense. It's really basically milestone leveling, but with a number that shows you how close you are. I don't mind that, honestly, as a system. It's a nice hybrid, and it's so cool. It's so cool. Stop forcing combat forward playstyles on your players. If they want to talk their way out of every situation, reward them for that, even if you're using XP. What am I doing? Inspiration. It's so good in Baldur's Gate how they do inspiration, man. Getting inspiration dice from your background is just such a good reward for role-playing. Oh, are you a charlatan and you talked your way into a secret party by schmoozing the guards? Huh. Take an inspiration dice. Are you a criminal who just pickpocketed the key to a jail cell to free a trapped gnome? Go ahead and take an inspiration dice. Are you really mad that I've said inspiration dice now 3 times when it's inspiration die? Me too. It's something that's so applicable to your own games though, because it can be hard to get players, especially new one, to roleplay and act like their characters would. But if you give them a tangible reward for acting according to their background, or you can even expand it if you want to, it's great. And that way you're not like forcing people to roleplay who don't want to, you're encouraging roleplay. Bardic inspiration. This is different than inspiration. Bardic inspiration, I love you so much. But I see you get wasted so often. So often. I hate to see my little bard players playing their little lute or their little flute to give their players some extra inspiration, just to see that inspiration not get used and float away after 10 minutes of game time. It's so sad. But this happens because it's really hard to know when something is going to happen that's going to require inspiration in Dungeons & Dragons. The only time it's obvious is during combat. But Bardic Inspiration can be so much more than just a combat ability. It can be used like whenever you want. So the way Baldur's Gate 3 handles it is so good, and that's by letting you use your Bardic Inspiration when someone is going to make an ability check. If your ranger is trying to smooth talk their way into a fancy rich person party and they're kind of fumbling over their words, why can't the bard just give a little boost to the ranger to increase the odds and make, I don't know, teamwork happen? Oh, what's the bard supposed to do? Just pull out the flute and play a little song right in the middle of a conversation? Read the player's handbook. It can be music, but it can also be stirring words, whatever those are. But also, who cares about why the bardic inspiration happens? It's fun to have your players interact with each other and help each other out in creating unique, funny situations. And if you want an actual justification, just imagine that the bard walks up and like just hypes you up a little bit, just like puts their hand on your leg and says, hey, you're doing so great in this conversation. And then like, that's fine, boom. Bardic inspiration. I also like that they do this for like everything that can be helpful, like casting friends or casting guidance. Just Anything that would be useful at the time of an ability check can be done at the time of an ability check. You don't have to do it ahead of time. It's great. The great thing about D&D is that the rules are really whatever you want them to be. They're kind of just a suggestion. Literally nothing is stopping you from playing the Pathfinder rule set and just saying you're playing D&D. Like, no one's going to arrest you. So if any of these Baldur's Gate 3 rules sound good to you, put them in your games. Try them out. If they suck, take them out. It doesn't matter. It's your game. It's all up to you. But most importantly, and I want you guys to remember this, I'm going to go to sleep now.